Right now, we're going to go to Sixdof Space.
Hi, I'm Daniel. There's nothing like being on stage, having great eye contact with you, the audience, maybe seeing if I got the attention of the judges, and of course, comparing notes with the other teams presenting. But we're going to have to do without that today. The good news is that I'm going to be able to show you more members of our team and more technology than I could possibly bring onto stage with me. I'm going to talk about tracking, and because we're here at NASA, let me explain what I mean by tracking, using the example of spacecraft docking. It's simply that the docking craft must know exactly where it is in order to pilot safely into position. It needs to track its position relative to the craft it is docking with. NASA astronaut Mike Foale was aboard the Russian Mir space station in 1997 when a manual docking procedure of a Progress M34 supply craft went badly wrong. In the resulting collision, Mir was punctured and half its solar cells damaged. Thankfully, no lives were lost. But one thing that the collision made clear was that, whether it's a human or a machine at the controls, accurate and fast tracking data is the key to safe, reliable and repeatable positioning. You might not realize it, but today, optical tracking is pervasive in modern life, from the simple sensor that lets your phone know when it's next to your ear, to the LiDAR systems keeping self-driving cars on the road. Modern devices need to be deeply aware of their relationship to the world around them. A little over 3 years ago, we realized that the design of these tracking systems hadn't evolved in years, with many of them based around camera assemblies designed for a totally different purpose. It seemed that people were just shrugging their shoulders and making do with small, incremental improvements. Driven by the belief that we could create a cheaper and way faster solution, we founded Sixdof Space. At Sixdof Space, we combine optics, algorithms, and electronics into a board that, when installed into a customer product, provides precise, ultra-fast Sixdof tracking using existing facility lights or low-cost beacons as reference points. We're a socially distanced core team of 10, bringing decades of experience that spans from optic lens design all the way to 3D PC visuals. We are based in Jerusalem, Israel, which brings us all the benefits of being part of the startup nation and adds just a little touch of purpose and vision. Even though the company is still young, we've already been part of 2 leading consumer electronics company accelerators, part of 5 international trade delegations, and exhibited twice at CES as part of the official Israel Pavilion. We have consistently received development funding grants. We also give back to the community in multiple ways, with everything from allocating part of the company to charity, through technology development for the country's leading children's rehabilitation hospital, to welcoming missions from around the world. Why did we think the industry was ready for a shake-up? Well, 1 year earlier, Valve Corporation, a leading US game developer, and HTC, a Taiwanese consumer electronics company, released the Vive VR headset, with a revolutionary tracking system that, although expensive and slow, blew everyone away with its simplicity and effectiveness. This system was so revolutionary that the Vive tracker has now been adopted for all kinds of industrial applications. For example, to record the precise camera position used to take engineering photographs.
Hi, I'm Mark Goldfarb, and I am the CEO of Sixdof Space. Our tracking and positioning system is indeed unique. We expect the largest market for this technology to be consumer devices such as AR headsets. But until then, we are working hand in hand with major multinationals who have lost faith in what's currently on the market and have come to us for a custom solution that meets their needs. We make sub-assemblies that allow devices to know their position relative to fixed or moving targets. This subassembly goes into products across multiple industries to give these products low-latency Sixdof tracking capabilities. The market is already telling us where to focus, and 3 areas in particular, all industrial, are really buzzing. So let me tell you about moving object tracking. Did you know that 250,000 forklift trucks are sold every year? And that is in the US alone. Apart from having a driver, these are basically dumb devices that move around factories and warehouses all day, but keep no record of where they were or what they did. Our modified iRobot knows where it is simply by observing the room lights above it. We can bring this capacity to forklifts with minimal or no need to retrofit beacons into the warehouse. Augmented reality is coming in a big way, and I'm not referring to hobbyists or enthusiasts. We've seen some of the biggest players embrace augmented reality, including the US military. Industry wants to move beyond requiring technicians and engineers to constantly switch away from what they're working on. With AR, they get to see one unified world, real and virtual together. Many people focus on the display part of AR, but the tracking is no less important. Without knowing where the viewer's head is, it's impossible to overlay virtual objects realistically. With the fast, accurate tracking that we offer, the virtual objects blend seamlessly into the real world. Now, the drone applications really surprised us, and some of these are very similar to the spaceship docking case that Daniel opened with. When drones need accuracy, they use cameras and work optically, but cameras are slow, prone to blur, and require intensive processing. With our optical tracking system, drones can keep the accuracy they need, yet get updates hundreds of times per second, even while moving. We are already engaged with 2 different drone platform developers who need just that capability. We have had serious interest from all these markets. Each one of these boxes represent a multi-billion-dollar industry. We have chosen to focus on industrial use cases, which needs wide open space tracking. This gives us beachheads into the entertainment providers, warehouse, and drone fields. We have paying customers already in these market segments, ranging from a few $1,000s for an evaluation kit to hundreds of thousands of dollars building specialized modified systems for their customers' specific applications. To date, we've raised $4.5 million, roughly half of that through government grants, with most of the rest coming from professional investors. We are already seeing around half our expenses covered by customer revenue. Given that we haven't yet even started gaining economies of scale, we are confident that we will break even and then reach profit before 2022.
Did you know that NASA has already sent 2 Astra B drones to help out at the International Space Station? They mainly use cameras to work out where they are. Pictures are available only once per second and have to be sent to a laptop for analysis. So that's already one place we can really help. And here on Earth, NASA is playing an important role, with SBIR and STTRs focused on challenges such as avoiding drone collisions. In fact, there are so many places in NASA where positioning is critical, or where you've got one object moving relative to another. For example, docking a supply craft to the space station, or making a perfect landing at a remote observation site. But there are also the industrial type use cases, such as checking the position of an articulated arm, or providing an augmented reality schematic overlay during complex maintenance operations. There's even just keeping track of inventory. With its high speed yet low power and low bandwidth, our system can do things that camera-based designs cannot.
Hi, I'm Cloney Lieberman, Vice President of Research and Development at Sixdof Space and one of the founders. I've been developing unique optical solutions all my life with products such as the virtual keyboard and the world's first commercial near-field scanning optical microscope. Let's think about a 2D camera for a while, and let's imagine that we're looking at a couple of bright objects, maybe light bulbs, and you turn the exposure way down. You'll see 2 small groups of pixels lit up on your camera image, the yellow spots, and the rest is dark. Now, imagine you have some way of summing all the pixels in each row and also summing all the pixels in each column. You'd end up with the X and Y pixel vectors shown. That's basically the same information, but with a fraction of the pixels, typically a couple of thousand pixels instead of a couple of million. And that's exactly what we do. We compress the image from 2 dimensions into 1 dimension using our patented wide-angle optical compression lens. This is a single element, low-cost injection molded lens that, because of its unique design, offers better performance than you get from a traditional 3-element glass fisheye lens. Our lens design is currently optimized for use with off-the-shelf linear sensors, but the optics can scale right down to work with the tiniest sensors you can imagine. This is what our first generation sensor boards look like. It holds 3 optical assemblies and the control electronics. It's passed rigorous military level testing for vibration and impact resistance, and now we are prototyping a 2nd generation design with improved performance and flexibility. I'm going to hand you over now to my team to tell you a little bit about their work.
Hi, I'm Nava. Even the simplest sensor applies some kind of algorithm. For applications that need more capable sensors, maybe better speed or a little more accuracy, you very quickly end up with algorithms that have to deal with high bandwidth data resulting in heavy processing loads.
And I am Mori. I developed the algorithm that first handled the data arriving from the optical sensor in our design. Due to the optical compression lens, we avoid adding significant bandwidth as we take the system toward higher performance. In fact, the raw data produced by our sensor fits easily in a standard USB 2 connection, and even when running at 1,000th frame per second.
Hi, I'm Abigail. No two tracking situations are exactly the same. For example, there are a surprising number of applications where both the object and the target are moving. Normally, we also take data from a MEMS gyroscope to give us additional tracking stability, but in these cases, we have to do pure optical tracking without a MEMS. I create additional functional modules that enable our tracker to adapt to challenging customer situations like these.
I'm Gilad, and I lead algo development. Calibration is a really important topic for any tracking system, because no matter how accurate your manufacturing process is, every single device behaves a little differently. We spent almost 2 years creating and developing this optimal lens design. It's a unique 120 degree by 120 degree optical compression lens. We have spent a further year developing a robust calibration framework for it. In common camera lenses, the angular resolution fluctuates over the field of view. In our lens, the angular resolution stays constant, so we can get the same accuracy whether a reference point is right in front of us or off to the side.
I'm Shlomo. Well, you've heard all about the optics and the algorithm, but there's more than that to creating a tracking subassembly. As you've heard, the hardware now in its second generation runs the electronics of optic sensors and delivers the data to the host system. Our Telegraph 2 program allows you to see what the sensors see before the algorithm starts processing it into tracking data. 2 of the sensors are horizontally sensitive. You can see those in the red and blue traces. And 1 is vertically sensitive. You can see that in the green trace. As the system gets closer to the lights or further away, or as it tilts or rotates, unique arrangement of these 9 peaks changes. So we know that the sensor is moving. Then over to Algo to tell us where.
I'm Anton, and like Shlomo, I work on the embedded and visualization side of things. Visualization is our way of showing the live Sixdof information in a way that is suitable for the end user application. We wanted to demonstrate just how effective our algorithm can be, even when running on very limited compute resources. So we took an off-the-shelf $35 Raspberry Pi and used it together with one of our sensors to provide real-time accurate positional tracking updates. Our algo ran on a single thread of the Pi with no fancy GPU or dedicated image processing hardware. This could be on a drone or a forklift, a worker hard hat, or built into the surgical device. We make sure to deliver software that fits into the customer's application framework.
It's amazing that despite having customers from such a wide range of applications, we hear the same feedback over and over again. We hear that they have been working on their product for years, with some of their smartest people working on tracking integration. But that the only way they can get the system to perform as they want is to connect it to a high-end tracking device that is too big, bulky, and expensive for their end product. As soon as they understand how our fundamentally different approach works, they are sold.
Our basic research is behind us, funded by development grants and insightful investors. Our algorithms are up and running. We are now going to market.
I hope that next time we meet it will be in person, and that you won't have to just take my word for it, because our tracker will be in customer products that you can try for yourselves. So it's time to wrap up. The Sixdof Space Tracker is low cost, but also low bandwidth, low power, and not compute intensive. It's rugged and reliable and free of privacy concerns. It delivers full Sixdof at up to 1,000 frames per second, with end-to-end latencies, algorithm included, as low as 3 milliseconds. And it's available now for customer evaluation and as part of a customized integration to meet their system needs. Thank you for being with us today.
The floor is open for judges' questions.
Yeah, I've got a quick question about the funding you mentioned. You said that half of it, or approximately 4 million, half of it's from grants. Can you give us a breakdown of grants versus the investors? And maybe tell us a little bit about who the investors are and what the terms were that you raised that money on?
Sure. This is Mark. I'm the CEO. The government grants, Israel has something called the Israel Innovation Authority, and we received 3 grants over 3 years. That money is a grant, but they get a royalty of future sales. In terms of investors, most of our investors have been private investors. There are 2 key angel investors that can't come in. And there's one venture fund that came in from Israel, and also one of the leading headset manufacturers from Taiwan put some money in as well.
So Mark, a quick question, because I want to make sure that all the other judges get time. Sure. Is Yoshi Vardy invested in your company?
Which company?
Is Yoshi Vardy invested in your company?
I missed the word that you said, sorry.
Yoshi Vardy, is he invested?
No, he's not.
Okay, just curious. And so the next question is about your patents. So you have the wide field optical module sensor, which is issued and plenty of coverage. Do you know what the status on your indoor positioning patent, which you showed in the video, is with the little robot that you were talking about for the warehouses? And then also the same thing on the asymmetric content protection for the large data streams. And maybe you could tell me a little bit more on what you're protecting with that second patent.
Sure, I'm going to hand that over to Cloney.
Sure. The patents that we have issued to date relate to the optics themselves, to the compression. We have some pending applications in the U.S. describing the overall application, but none of those have issued. One of them issued, but a very narrow use case. So we've actually accepted that, and then we filed a continuation to continue to try to get the broad use case applications. The asymmetric content that you discussed was a side topic that's not really the core focus of our company, and we're not pursuing that technology at the moment.
Okay, that's why I was curious. Thank you so much. All right, other judge.
Thank you, Ramona.
I want to ask about, you mentioned you're free of privacy concerns. Are you able to prevent hacking? Hacking could be really dangerous for some of your activities. So please explain that a little bit more.
I will hand that over to our CTO, Daniel.
Okay. We're not really addressing, if you like, the systems aspect of how do we ensure that nobody breaks into the system and can get the data out. There's, I've actually worked in security before. There's a lot that can be done. What we're saying is there is no image formed in our system. At no point do we have a 2D image of what's in front of us, because by the time the light rays have come through our lens, all that's left is a single optical signature. And you're going to have a hard time taking that optical signature and putting it back into a 2D picture. It's just been squashed down. If you imagine your old TV set, when you turned it off, the whole picture went down to a single line. There's nothing really to see except the data we need for positioning.
I'll follow up more later.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Ramon. I wanted to reiterate that format of a quick question from the judges, a quick answer, and a follow-up in the impact table.
Does the performance degrade in cases of, pollution or smoke?
Cloney, why don't you answer that because you did the testing?
Occlusion would degrade performance if there was no line of sight to the beacons. We've done some testing for one of our customers in a smoke environment, and there's a negligible impact on the signal. If there were a thick smoke that you couldn't see, then yes, but as long as you can view the light, whether it's an IR beacon or a room light, the system can track it.
Thank you.
This has been a quick follow-up on that. What is your distance that you can detect a beacon at or use a beacon? Is it short range, long range? What does it look like?
It's a fairly short range tracking, primarily for indoor applications, up to 10 meters. The distance is a little bit limited. That's a question of the brightness of your light source, your beacon. But the resolution and the accuracy of your tracking will go down the further you are from your light sources. So we're primarily focusing on short range, that's in the orders of meters, to medium range in the tens of meters distance.
Herman, do you have a question?
Yes, my name is Sherman Williams. My question is, with respect to your light algo, not necessarily, obviously not the infrared algo, how does the algorithm perform in a low light or even a no light environment? And then for some of these facilities, again, eliminating the IR sensor, just focus on light, do you have to do a walkthrough of a facility ahead of time in order to map it out so that algorithm works best?
Daniel, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so starting with the first question, which is no light. If we're in a situation where there are absolutely no light sources, then as a light center, we don't have a reference. But we have a few applications where people have said we want no visible light, for example, in a theater. So in that case, we're using infrared. We can have something that is completely invisible to the people in the room, and we can function very well. You mentioned about walking through an environment. So you'll actually find on our website an example where we walked into basically a small supermarket with our sensor mounted on a trolley. And as we pushed the trolley down the aisle, we were mapping out the lights in the ceiling above us and basically doing SLAM, building a map as we went, and then operating from that. Most use cases actually, though, they're not interested in SLAM when you build a map from scratch, because there are interesting things that they want to have in there. For example, they want to know where particular machines are. So from there, we would use either building information system, our own surveying system, or some external surveying system to tell us where the lights or the beacons were. And then we can give the customer back the position in whatever system frame of reference they want.
Do you have a time per square foot in order to do that?
It's minutes. It's minutes per site. It's basically walking through it, capturing it, and making sure that the system is locked.
So what are the physical characteristics of the installed product, and how much power does it draw?
Daniel, why don't you continue with that then?
Okay, so our current product that you saw in the video is basically designed to be installed into a virtual reality headset. We've had lots of backwards and forwards as to the preferred form factor. As we said in the video, it can go as small as you want. There's nothing fundamentally that restricts us to the size. In terms of power, our current board runs at about 1 watt. We made no real effort to get that down because we expect the thing to go to an ASIC in the medium to long term. The one interesting data point to take away is we were talking to some big players in the field. The fundamental image sensing devices that we're using are probably going to use about 1/3 of the power of any camera-based system. So fundamentally, we can get down to 1/3 of the power.
At the end of your presentation, the person had a box under his arm. I assume that was the product, so obviously that was wrong.
No, that is actually just a development kit that we send out to customers that have bought it. Inside there is the actual sensor board. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm holding one up right now. That's our actual board. It was in the video as well.
Right.
I'll jump in one more thing on power. You saw the bouncing on the spring sensor. We ran that on CES this year. That entire system that you saw ran a whole day on a single charger battery pack.
Can you say something about the number of beacons that you need and their distribution in order to get accurate positioning?
Sure, Cloney?
Sure. Ideally, you would want to have 3 beacons in your field of view at any one time to do an absolute optical localization. Our sensor has a field of view of 120 degrees by 120 degrees. So as long as you have those 3 beacons within your field of view, you can track. I said you can localize. Once you know where you are, you can actually continue to track off a single beacon, because the system does have an IMU in it, and it does enable you to track at least for short term. As long as there's a single light source or beacon in your field of view, you can maintain your tracking.
And can you say something about how you would perform in a place where the lighting changes arbitrarily? So for example, in your docking case, if it's rotating, the light will dim and brighten as it goes around. Is that going to cause problems?
No, that shouldn't be much of a problem. When we're using our own pre-installed beacons, We actually have the ability to modulate them because our sensor operates so quickly. So each beacon can put out its own unique code. And then the system always knows not just where the beacon is, but which beacon it's looking at. And it can track that as well. So if one rotates out of field of view, another one comes in, you would be able to identify them and know what you're looking at and who you're tracking.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the whole, to all the participants and especially to the winners. Before we head out, I want to just give a big thank you to the NIA team. You guys have done a great job. This was my first event, and between the interactions that we had with the companies, but also all of the facilitating that's been done, all of the work and the coaching, and quite frankly, you guys holding my hand through this as I learned it too. I really appreciate all of you guys. And this was a great experience for me, and I think it's been a great experience for everybody. So thank you guys. I want to make sure that anybody who's watching the live stream right now, that you guys are aware that we have our Cycle 2 event coming up on October 15th and 16th. So please join us for that, where we will have another round of 10 companies showing us how their dual-use technology can benefit NASA while still stimulating commercial markets. Thank you.